Yeah, welcome, Noah Digital Community. We had a wonderful conference in December and feel highly motivated to connect all our speakers. And one of the companies who did not present at Noah, but reached out to us after the conference has really impressed me. Alexander Watson from OpenForest. Hi, Alex. Welcome to Noah. What's your background, Alex?
I do have a background in forestry and finance. So I started my career in the reforestation sector for a German forest investment company. So I established reforestation and agroforestry projects in Latin America and Panama, and converted monoculture plantations in Southeast Asia, specifically Vietnam, into diverse reforestation projects. So
Is that possible?
It's possible, but the major challenge is to convince people. So the possibility is more a constraint in, let's say, in the minds of the people that they're not open to new ideas. And this is basically where OpenForest stands for, is getting more information into the forest sector, better understand what's going on, improve processes, and introduce more innovative technology which allow to handle more complex ecosystems, more diverse ecosystems, more productive ecosystems, and more resilient ecosystems.
So you used to be an environmental worker and then came out of the forest and you built OpenForest. When was that?
Well, so I started as a forest engineer. I'm doing all the monitoring work in Panama. And working in these projects, we find out that a lot of things can go wrong. So we went there with a lot of optimism. So actually, it's great to put money into a good subject and potentially also earn some money back from that. But it's not that easy. So for example, if you go into a country as a foreign investor, as a foreign company, buy up some land and, for example, a cattle range, and restored with native tree species, you think that's a good thing. Well, no forest, and then you have forest, but the reality is much more complex. So those where you buy the land from, they get the money and go a little bit, So they take the money, go a little bit further, and cut down new forest to sell you some more land. So actually, by doing reforestation, you could cause deforestation. And it also implies some social issues like who owns the land? Are there land titles in place? So I observed that indigenous people who lived on the land for generations have been chased out of the land because some foreign investors just bought the land. So it's not wrong to do reforestation, but you have to do it right from the beginning. So you need all the data in place. So you need to know the cadastral situation, land use rights. You need to know what kind of species are growing there, what's the history of the land in terms of deforestation, and you need the expertise to do it right and to build up a system that simulates a natural system to be really resilient and future-proven. And if you do all these steps right, if you have the data in place, if you have good collaborations with the local indigenous people, then you can build up something wonderful in that space. But the missing link has been the data. So investors don't know what they get when they invest into foreign countries in which might not be so stable than Europe or the US. And tracking the progress on the ground with remote sensing data is really a crucial part for a success of a project, because you can detect deviations at a very early stage and improve the management process.
And I guess data can be used once to formulate projects and finding areas where forest projects would make most sense, but then you also have a use of data on the monitoring side once a project is put in place. OpenForest, you explained to me in preparation of this call, is an atlas, or it's a map-based solution. And your dream is it, as far as I remember, to put all the environmental organizations and their projects on your database, on your atlas, so that offsetters and any type of user can scroll and check, okay, here's an environmental project, let's see how it performed over time. You plan to be like the Wikipedia of environmental projects?
Yeah, of course, that would be great. So OpenForests' key product is called Explorer.land, which is a map-based project presentation tool that allows projects to put their locations on a map. Yeah, so the beauty of web maps is that they can connect data and the story in one place, and gives all stakeholders the possibility to see the project progress in space and time. And with Explorer, we want to create a home for all these projects. So basically a place where it's free of charge to upload your project polygons and also to display your data. So basically a place of no excuse. So if you say, I want to build out a high quality project in that space, I have to show where it is and when it takes place, because it's easy to tell a story about a project with just some nice photos and information snippets. But if you really want to bring quality to your project, you have to show what's going on in your project.
And yeah, I guess they say pictures speak more than words, but maps are probably the holy grail of the entire transparency war, because I entered the conservation space like 2.5 years ago, and now everybody is screaming about transparency and data, but then it has to be in a collaborative way. And you want to be this collaboration platform where all the project developers are putting on their projects. And then, yeah, is it mostly targeting offsetters or other project developers, or maybe government, or who are your usual user for Explorer.land?
Explorer has a very broad approach. We're addressing all kind of landscape restoration and conservation projects. Mm-hmm. So from forest protection to kelp forest to mangroves to savanna ecosystems to agroforestry systems. And we want to create a place where all these wonderful projects come together and find their markets. So in some cases, carbon offset projects show where they storing carbon, and we can then prove this with, for example, deforestation data. In other cases, it's about a coffee cooperative that says, I'm growing on this hill high quality coffee in Guatemala, and I print a QR code onto my coffee bag, and I can prove that this coffee has been grown on this hill. And people who buying the coffee, they're also buying into the story, and also buying into and they have also the possibility to prove transparency in terms of impact of the project.
So it's a communication tool, an information transparency tool, but also, and that I guess is your long-term vision, you want to be a marketplace where you help projects to find offsetters, maybe funding, or simply put themselves literally in the map.
Yes. So at the end, it helps the projects to get funding because they gain a higher level of transparency and trust. And transparency and trust has become the new currency. So you might know that there have been a lot of scandals in the place. In the area.
That would have been my next question. So are they interested to have transparency?
Yeah. So there have been a lot of scandals in the area of offsetting, but also tree planting. And the public has become a little bit more aware that it's not about just planting a tree. It's also about you need the information. Where has the tree planted? What tree has been planted and when has it been planted? And is it still standing there after 5 years? Mm. And OpenForests Explorer.land tool wants to give the possibility to show the planting areas, and follow the progress over time. And well, so we have seen an incredible increase in users of Explorer, because I think slowly the market has understand that's not about just saying something good and doing a little bit. It's really about showing what you do on the ground and quantifying to be not accused for greenwashing.
Yeah, let's talk about this. I was very interested in the certification aspect. I think there is the gold standard, which was developed by WWF. Now you have Verra, the VCS standard, which is like the certification authority for these environmental projects. And let's talk about the environmental projects. You have like reforestation, and then you have avoiding deforestation, and both should have a net positive impact on the CO2 or carbon sequestration. How bad is it, Alex? You brought a lot of transparency to the world. You have probably reviewed a lot of projects. Is there hope in these forest projects, or has it become so intransparent and there's a lot of scams here? Is it getting better?
I believe carbon could be a tool to get funding into sustainable forest. And if it's done right, and if you have all the data and tools in place to track really the impact on the ground, I see there's a light on the horizon, because it's one out of many tools to get funding into into the sustainable restoration sector. At the moment, we have to catch up with the technologies, because all the old projects did not use these technologies. So they are based on the ground assumptions from different points. But now with the new technologies, you have the possibility to get a wall-to-wall picture to capture the entire project over space and time, and also in real time. So this is a big advantage. If those standards adopt these technologies more and more into their certification scheme, then I see a big possibility for funding projects.
But that means a big change for Verra, which does not allow for digital data collection, right? They kind of are literally hugging trees and bring the measurement tape and say, oh, I grew 2-3 centimeters. And that's why these certification processes takes 3 to 4 and sometimes even longer. You have to get the land rights in order, you have to get indigenous people signed off, you have to work with government, and then you have to go into the certification process. Has the United Nations Red Plus project, has it been set out to fail from the beginning? Is this industry too complicated? Do we need to have a dramatic change? Is there an opportunity for the NOAA Data Alliance to bring in a digital certification, which can only be better because, as you say, it's a real-time monitoring where you can't cheat then?
Well, certainly one has to get more smart and more efficient in the process. And because of this huge complexity, a lot of projects are left out of the market. So all the small to medium projects, which do really good work and maybe also cover the majority of the land, they are systematically kept out of this business. It changes some other standards appear, like Plan Vivo, which focus more on stakeholders. Well, I think we are really at an early stage of the market. We are really at an early stage of the technology that can be used, and either the standards adopt to the new reality, or some new standards will evolve and to make the market more efficient. So I don't think that carbon could be the only, let's say, funding to save the forest. So we have to work on different fronts at the same time. So we need to make rewilding protection. We have to protect biodiversity. We have to protect sacred indigenous lands. So there are a lot of measures which need to be in place, which cannot be paid with monetary incentives. So no one can tell how much what's the value of the last 40 rhinos. So no one can give it a price tag. So maybe the ecological value is very marginal because there are just few left. So why don't use this for this area for soybean? So I think we cannot fix all problems just with a monetary perspective, but carbon has, I think, a value on the market, and we should work on it consistently with good data. But now I also want to address the other side. It's also important who is doing the carbon sequestration. So if you as an organization shift like Tesla or to renewable energy and just use really what cannot be sequestrated to offset these emissions, then I would say carbon offsetting is okay. But if you are like Disney and you operate your cruise ships, which blow crude oil in thousands of liters every hour into the atmosphere, and then use a carbon scheme to greenwash these activities, then this is a problem, because then offsetting, as long as offsetting is more cost effective than saving emissions at the source, then it basically will subsidize further economical activities which are against basically climate reduction.
Yeah, the numbers are shockingly small, right? I think currently the annual carbon credits which get retired, meaning offset in the registries, are less than $500 million, while the offset promises by 2030, or the carbon credit implied volume, is closer to 30 billion, but there are no projects, right? There's also a long discussion around having carbon credits linked to biodiversity. So it's not just carbon sequestration, but it's like how much biodiversity is on a given space. Do you plan to integrate biodiversity data into Explorer?
Yeah, I think that's really a crucial part, to have biodiversity data linked to carbon projects, because it has shown, according to some new studies, that putting a focus on biodiversity could also increase the carbon sequestration potential to up to 10 to even 12 times. So if you integrate large mammals or herbivores into savanna ecosystems, you can multiply the carbon sequestration potential of these ecosystems. So it's a couple. So you always should think carbon together with biodiversity.
Yeah, I was shocked when I started working on the sectors to see that there's no global land rights registry. And by the way, there's different levels of ownership, of course, but do you try to implement and show indigenous people land rights in the map?
Well, so with Explorer, we are still at an early stage. So we're currently building up the infrastructure. At the moment, we have integrated, I think, 25 data layers. But
so let's talk about what data you have. I mean, obviously data. So I think one data is tree cover and tree cover change, right? Which is like a key one. Biomass, you cannot, I don't think you have yet on your platform, but you calculate the biomass, which you really need for RED Plus projects, for example, right? That's a certification bit, which can come from a LiDAR or a different one. But what other data you show on Explorer?
Well, so at the moment we have deforestation over time. We have a forest gain data layer. We have land cover maps. We have key biodiversity ecoregions. We have forest fragmentation. We have soil carbon, which is also an important layer. But as mentioned, it's still in the process of building up. So we currently integrating data layers from different data sources, like from the global WWF database, from Global Forest Watch, the fire data from the NASA program. Sentinel time series will be integrated from the European Space Agency, from the Copernicus program. So basically, we're still at a starting point to build up this infrastructure to integrate all different data sets.
And how many users you have, or how many organizations? Maybe you can give us some examples of project developers that you just started opening the platform. Like, when was it? 2 months ago, 3 months ago?
No. So basically, we initially launched the platform like 2 years ago, but so we bootstrapped it to this stage. And we started with a very basal project presentation view. I think in the past 12 months, we have doubled the number of projects to about 500 projects now on Explorer.
How much hectare is that?
It's difficult to say, because how projects, the size of the project is measured is totally different. Some people have landscapes in place which include different actors, but today there are millions of hectares already covered by these 500 projects.
And like sustainable forestry, you also map those lands, like the Forest Stewardship Council has sustainable timber businesses, because timber could be like opening projects, or it could open new forest protection projects, because sometimes maybe carbon is more attractive.
Well, so in terms of forest projects, we recently onboarded a big initiative of WWF, which calls the Forests Forward initiative, which is an initiative that connects big corporates like IKEA, HP, with forest projects. And in this collaboration, they want to increase the sustainable forest management practice by introducing FSC certification. For example, HP wants to become tree positive. So they want to enable more tree planting than they are used by their printers, for example.
Interesting. And what's the next step for OpenForests? Are you open for investors? I mean, it's a bootstrap business, and I guess capital sometimes can distract quite a bit when you execute a plan, and especially when you do something new. I guess you have to go slowly. But are you open for investors? Noise at the end, investor startup matching platform.
Yeah, well, so we are to some extent open for investment. So at the moment, investment. So the investment is not the constraint for growing the platform. So there's already a positive cash flow to build out Explorer. Our plans are now is to open the platform. So we recently launched a free plan. So every project around the world has now the possibility to create a profile free of charge and start this journey of become transparent and building up the trust into the sector, because I think that's the big next step. So we have to really build up the trust in the forest restoration sector.
Is there any platform which is trying to do what you do at the moment?
Well, so first of all, we don't think in competition. So if someone is doing the same and is doing it better, we are happy. But at the moment, we don't see a direct competition, because our platform is really on visualizing and building out the stakeholder constellations to have
as a project organizer, if you have two platforms, we put your projects on two, right? And then it's not competitive. It's just like one more place to see it. It's a bit like advertising, I guess, right? You won't go exclusive on one platform. You want to be in several.
Exactly. You are on Twitter and on Instagram, and they fulfill different purposes. And we want to create a place that's the second best option to visit the project in real person. So because these projects are around the world and it takes time and carbon also to visit these projects. So we want to create a kind of digital twin where projects themselves can tell their story with maps, with stories and data.
Well, it's fascinating, Alex. How many people are you at OpenForests now?
We are about 10 at the moment.
And are they mostly technical or more like biologists or?
Well, at the moment, I would say 50% are really in the tech space. Then we have a few with a domain knowledge, like me, in forestry ecology, and also, of course, in sales and communication.
What's your biggest worry about executing open forests and your vision?
The biggest worry is that at some point I'll die and I have made no impact. So,
well, Alex, that's wonderful. You know, transparency, collaboration is the reason why we pivoted NOAA, and what we try to trigger also. So we will encourage all of our project developers to bring their projects on to Explorer, and most important, we will support you by finding good data and integrating it. Can't wait to host you at the next NOAA, which the dates are 6th and 7th of December at the Circle in Zurich. And we should have an Open Forest Explorer project hall where your organizations can present their projects to our offset community. And yeah, it's a big discussion around offsetting, if it's good or bad. I think, especially after this talk, I opt to say offsetting is a good thing if it's done with the right professionalism, and you can actually prove that you have delivered positive change to nature, right?
Thank you very much, Marco, for the invitation to the call. We will certainly look forward to meet you in person at the next NOAA conference. And I really hope that we can bring a lot of projects also to your conference and give them the space to connect there with these outstanding investors who want to make a change. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Take care.